Yat Arbin, Vice President Myron Lizer here. Comanche Nishlan, Tolhanem, Blashischin, Otto Comanche Deshache, Clash Chidashanelli. It is good to be with you this morning on this July 7th for the Town Hall on COVID-19 updates. We'll also be giving updates on the Wood Springs 2 fire and also Census 2020. As you know, we're right in the midst of counting all of our people, and so the need to get these updates out there and the requests for you all to get online and be counted, or to make yourself available to the census count people that are out there. This COVID-19 pandemic has changed things up on us a little bit. So today we'll be joined by our Congressman Tom O'Halloran from Arizona. He will be with us and giving us his updates from his office and what he sees in and around our great state of Arizona. Andy Mandel, Incident Commander for the Southwest Area Incident Management Team, fighting the fire. Arbin Mitchell, 2020 Census. Our Chief of Staff, Paulson Chaco. And lastly, but not least, our Executive Director for Department of Health, Dr. Jill Jim. But first, a little prayer this morning as we start all of our meetings off with prayer. We give homage and praise to our Creator, and then I'll introduce our President, Jonathan Nez. So, Shidi and God, we give you praise today, this morning, Lord. Another day of life, Lord. Another day to pray and take up the cares and burdens of others, Lord, around us. For that is what you wish us to do, Father, to fight for those who can't fight for themselves, Lord. And Lord, we thank you. We pray for those that are struggling right now, Lord. We pray for those that are hurting and in mourning, Lord, Father. We come alongside them and lift them up in prayer, Father. Lord, we also ask for your wisdom, which is the principal thing, Father. Help us as leaders, Lord, to remain humble, Lord, to act vigilantly, to act on the information that's given. And Lord, as we judge rightly, Father, that you give us wisdom in which to lead a country, a nation, Lord. The land here is on fire, Father. We pray for rain. Open up the windows of heaven and pour out some rain, Lord, for our land. We are in drought season, Lord, and we just look to you for every good thing, Lord. Every good thing comes from above. So, Lord, we thank you again this morning. We ask that you be with us in this time of this town hall. Let the information be heard by many, Lord, Father, and let it contain the truths, Lord, that speak to your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, Lord. So now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, President of the Navajo Nation, Mr. Jonathan Nez.
Thank you, Vice President Lizer. Shana Kodo, Citizen Behainzi, Hehe, Ado Ishibe. Hadainot Nido Le Shikado Shadne, Ado Quay Ya Bakagish Kliji, Tsish Kliji, Deneni, Klinigia. Ko, Citizen Igi Ya. Be starten da ili skoya anda le landa le hodo ado akwada hagan has anende hota je binina kodo DNA yan higejis le do nahalia nsobansas kesh kedoshna aron le bagajia le sawmill jado nazlini ado kojigo kindahlichi nigun akwa Hadilidia the Isto forest fire is lean Ado Allah Kotao Eya Nihikea Nihinihi Nhandal Neshigi Kaije ya it's loud on Lenigi do Le Rangers has Ajado Ado Department of Transportation Khalchin Aj Dal Neshigi Kaij Public Safety has Aji Kedahat Inigi a teen Ayadon da Jeta Benina Hadok Atligi Benina Akonde di Hadok Atligia di Nezna Dindoba Tradindoba Nahastain Dal Neshtano what outside Hiji Kodayilla. The Besh Lichi Do Zenkish jo shi zin shigi bini na kon di hadok algi ade yisi start at za no ba hon ado ajdo di nskagi beshli chi akon kuyan tiya le chusgrede don le ganado aj nskagi a transmission line de nigi sta aj hadilet akonde kodo ngalchin hik edan lingido bilagan and hika ejegi asho di dog atligi jo slow down da yilda so do on ben hilpersen do le shik edo shidna di do kodo banda hilne a kuich ashladin do ba ana hast 8 mil yaj do ba ana kinezadin do ba ashla enelt au kon tested up at dilia do positive cases de hlinigia di de kosenskagi di nalnigi beda dol nagi ya tsost de miliage do ba nahast do dintsata enelt au kon di de kosenskagi beda dol na akonde di ich das kregia ayat endas legi ya ashla de miliage do ba hastra nezat din do ba din nelt ya ayat endas link at ich das kre shi kodo bien din god ba da hui ni tolel ni keni ni dnan hits adajit denigi ya tra nezat din do ba tsost din do ba sebi ahot ya kon ni keni hinna di de kosentragi di nalnigi bits do ich das kreda adajitten edan linigi shin kuich bat so dilzen do benda ni tin kodo hanne ni je kundal igi bada holne ndishni do kodo kuich kon hanne ni je kundel na kijin da nishone do dijin da nishone nez na ol kilo do do hastra ol kilo na kijin da nishone do dijin da nishone ya di ktn bi hot kon banda hil nagi ktn bi yich ashane dali so la ya do ni radio bi un kundal ita do nenegi jo ta kundel la she do radio do isenol tsa da ishin binina don hilbeda hazna konden hi masani hi cheni nale kodo bicha shanen del di hanne do kodo ya ni khalchen ge go da iltragi kodo banane shidil enigi yanda halna gi kodo sa ni hi kundel shik edo shidna. Ladies and gentlemen, the numbers for as of yesterday at 5 p.m. for COVID-19, 59,205 have been tested throughout the Navajo Nation, and you all may know now that we have tested very aggressively. We're almost at 30% of our Navajo citizens being tested here on the Navajo Nation. 30%. And, that's over 1 in 4. So, that's a good number that we are tracking, and we're also utilizing that information to do contact tracing. But for the positive tests is 7,914. Of those 7,914, 5,604 have recovered. 5,604 have recovered. Of course, our hearts and prayers go out to our Navajo people that have lost loved ones, or also those that are going through this virus right now. And those that have lost their lives to COVID-19, 378 of our Navajo citizens have passed on because of this virus. I wanted to also bring up some statistics. If you see this chart that's coming up, figure 1, that shows the cases from the start when we started tracking, like in March 17th all the way to today. So you can see the variation, and you can also see that we peaked out, we flattened out, and now we are on a downward trend. Of course, we want it to be at 0, right? No cases. But based on during that peak of COVID-19, you see that only one day out of the past 14 days or so have been over 100. So one day, that's that 121. All the rest have been under 100. And so thank you to each and every one of you for abiding by the public health orders, staying at home. You're doing an awesome job, ladies and gentlemen, in this pandemic, and following through on these public health orders. As you know, if you turn on the television right now, you'll see states that are going through a peak, a spike of COVID-19 positive cases, where it's overwhelming the healthcare system in their state. Texas is one example. They're to a point to where they're not able to take care of those COVID-19 patients that need immediate care. Arizona has been going up in number for several days now. And their healthcare system there is being stretched as well. Here on Navajo, as I reported, the cases are flattening out and going down. But we cannot stop the good work that we've been doing for the past several weeks, the past few months. Wearing our mask, social distancing, washing our hands, as well as staying home. This is how we will overcome this virus. That teaching is the weapons to fight this monster called COVID-19. We got to continue to do that. I know it's being repetitive. Every time we come to you, you hear this and you get tired of it, I'm sure. Many of us grew up with mom and dad telling us, and when you're a young person, like, right? Or again. But we got to continue to fight this monster by wearing our mask, social distancing, washing our hands, and staying home. There's a new public health order that reaffirm the stay at home, the shelter in place. So there shouldn't be much traffic out there on the Navajo Nation. Please just send one person to get your supplies, and let's protect our elders. Let's protect our most vulnerable population out there. Those that have health issues, diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and let's help them by staying home and listening to our healthcare professionals. You know, the next slide shows and this is important that I'd like to highlight. If you see the chart and what I'm saying about the spikes off our nation, last week, Coconino County had the highest COVID positive in a single day, and that was concerning. And if you look at the chart, you see the 8 service areas, and you could see the flattening of the cases, and as well as a slow downward trend of cases. And if you look at Winslow, you see a couple of spikes of increases there, and leveling off and flattening out. And I want to appreciate the Winslow Indian Health Care Center for containing the virus. Those that got the virus, they were isolated and quarantined, and you can see the flattening and slowing down of the virus. And that's what we need to do. Those of us that are listening out there, if you feel like you're getting sick, don't wait. Don't be a tough person and say, I could wait this through. It could just be a flu or whatever. Go to the healthcare center. Get tested. And get those results. And if you do become positive, there are places where you can quarantine and isolate yourself. We got hotels that have been transitioned to isolation centers. We also have the alternative care sites in Chinle and Shiprock. So there are places for you to go if you do catch the virus and you need someone there. I mean, they'll take care of you. They'll feed you. They'll take care of you. But we just need a commitment from you that you will stay there for 14 days. I know not many people want to do that. But it is important because we don't want that spread to happen once again, especially within a household. So those resources are available for you, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, there's no cure. There's no vaccine yet. So this is a whole different world that we live in now here on the Navajo Nation and the United States and all around the world. And we need to take care of ourselves. And we need to be aware of our surroundings and protect our family members as well. And those of you that are doing that, thank you so much for the work that you are doing to protect your citizens and your family members. Now, these cases are starting to increase all around us, and we need your help. 4th of July weekend, we just got done. You know, you saw checkpoints, you saw roadblocks happening, but there's still a lot of traffic. I mean, we keep reiterating this over and over. We need to let our people know, our family members know, that this is serious. For those individuals who have caught the virus, or those families that have lost loved ones, they'll tell you how serious this virus is. But those that think that that this virus will not take them down or put them in the hospital, that's the wrong thinking. We're a large nation, 350,000 Navajos. Half of those live off the Navajo Nation. I've heard comments like, President, we're doing the wearing of masks, the social distancing, the washing your hands, and the staying home, those that live off the Navajo Nation. And thank you for doing that. In some states, they have not incorporated the mask, and all the way up to Washington, D.C. And for us here on Navajo, if there's ever a case study, if you want to look at how Navajo or how a people flattened out and reduced the numbers, we did it by wearing masks. We mandated our people to wear masks. I know people don't want to be told what to do. You can see these protests happening about wearing masks. But you know what? Masks reduce and stop the spread of COVID-19. And that's why the numbers are flattening out and going down. We had to get used to a new normal. This is normal now. Before, it took some time for us to get used to it. So when you go out in public, put a mask on. When you're out there, even in your vehicle, I see people wearing masks. And that's encouraging to leadership. That's encouraging to the healthcare professionals. And that's what's going to lessen the spread of COVID-19 here on the Navajo Nation. So let me just break off of that subject into the fire. Vice President mentioned that, there's a whole different way of approaching wildfires throughout the country now with COVID-19. The same thing happened here with Wood Springs 2 fire. I noticed that no large gatherings, right? Before, when they're doing briefings, there would be many people. But now they cut it to where it's just a small group. And the communication is done more by wireless phones, wireless technology. And that's been the new norm here in the United States. I talked about lessons learned and case study. A lot of people are asking the professionals here, the Southwest Area Incident Managed Team 5, on how they're handling the new norm in firefighting, land firefighting. So people are asking them, how are you doing it with this new regulations and protocols? And they're learning a lot from this incident here on the Navajo Nation with Wood Springs 2 fire. In a little bit, you'll get a more in-depth overview of the fire. I want to, this morning, Vice President and I, we were there for a briefing, and on behalf of the Navajo people, we thank the fire personnel for helping slow down the fire. It is 76% contained now. Just some hot spots here and there, and that's what they're doing, mopping up, getting those hot spots out. And they're out there, doing this on behalf of the Navajo Nation. And thank you for the Southwest Area Incident Management Team 5 and all the partners and all the resources that are there. So many hotshot crews out there. You got Navajo Hotshot, Zuni Hotshot, Mount Taylor, Prescott, Globe. There are many, many more that are out there fighting this fire, including fire departments from all over Arizona, all over the Southwest that are here helping. And don't forget the air support, the helicopters and the planes that have been flying over, dropping water, fire retardant chemicals onto the fire to slow it down. When Vice President and I visited the site, we saw these hardworking firefighters. Some of them didn't enjoy the 4th of July weekend because they were here battling the fire. And so this morning at 6 a.m., we thanked all the fire personnel on behalf of the Navajo people and the families that live out there. And I told the families already that this would be a priority, and we got this up to 76% contained since Monday of last to this past Monday. 7 days. And I appreciate the firefighters and the fire personnel. 12,861 acres have burned. And it was done by lightning. It started by lightning. Either that Friday or that Saturday. But we saw that big rain that went through the area Friday evening. So it might have been done then and started on Saturday when the winds picked up. So Mark Bernal, incident commander, thank you. Thank you so much for your team. And there are many, all the section chiefs, all the personnel there, being an incident commander, you have got this up to 76% contained. Once I was told on Friday it'll be given back, the operation given back to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So Bart Stevens, thank you. I know you were there this morning at the briefing. You were there all the way through, and with the Southwest Area Incident Management Team 5 coming in with your help, they went to work, got it 76% contained. And so there's going to be other tasks that are going to have to be done. Erosion control, right? After a forest fire, you got to look at the landscape. Flooding is always something that you have to start planning for. And so BIA will begin to look into that. There are so many of our Navajo Nation departments and divisions that helped out in this process. Navajo Nation Rangers, Navajo Nation Fish and Wildlife, Navajo Nation Animal Control, Navajo Nation Police, and our Rangers, they were there helping out with the traffic control. Department of Public Safety, Division of Natural Resources, Navajo Department of Transportation, many, many more of our Navajo Nation employees were there helping out with this fire. So everyone, including our Navajo Nation, thank you so much for the work that you have done to slow down this fire. Now, the legislation that was approved by the council, 2 of them came over to the office of the president, vice president. We vetted those. We did our due diligence. Our task as president and vice president is to protect the people's money, your money. And, there's certain times money's come into the Navajo Nation with certain stipulations. And you can't, go against those stipulations. And so we have to make those tough decisions. I mean, everybody wants their money. Everybody wants approval of the money. Since this line item veto authority was given to the president through a vote of the people, and during that time, there was a lot of misappropriation and mismanagement of funds. And that's when the people said enough is enough and gave the line item veto authority to the president to take care of the money, the Navajo people's money. And so we take that very seriously for the Navajo people. The CARES Act, over $714 million given to the Navajo Nation. And what we wanted to do is set up the process, include immediate expenditures. What is needed right now to help fight COVID-19? And ladies and gentlemen, you supported a legislation 0116-20. And it's because of you, it passed the council. Even though the council changed it, added some stuff on there, but it got past the finish line. So there's a lot of questions about line item veto authority out there. Everybody thinks that president and the vice president are not working with the council. But what we are doing is being the leader that is elected by the Navajo people as a whole, is to make sure there are plans in place, a comprehensive plan to get these monies spent. And based on what the Navajo people are wanting for us to address. Water infrastructure has always been on the forefront. Water lines, power lines, broadband and telecommunication, scholarships, housing, Those are the things, and there's so many other things, but those are up at the top of the list. And so these monies should focus on that because it deals with slowing and stopping the spread of COVID-19 and the preparedness. Because we don't know what's in front of us. No vaccine, no cure for COVID-19. So this money should be able to help, empower our citizens as well as do some long-term changes to our nation's infrastructure. So let me break it down for you. We're going to bring up a PowerPoint or a picture. The legislation that you all supported, 116-20, we proposed, certain items in there. We wanted to get some dollars for PPEs, personal protection equipment, the cleaning of our facilities, government's facilities. And so we packaged that up into 115, but a lot of it was taken out and put into another legislation, which we'll talk about in a bit. The special duty pay was deleted out of 116-20 and put into another bill. So was the PPE. But if you look at the breakdown of the legislation that was considered, we pretty much kept most of it intact. We had to, the council did say we line item vetoed $72 million, but let me show you what that $72 million entails. So if you look at CJN 4720 at the top there, we approved the $10 million for food, water, and basic necessity care packages and related items for COVID positive patients, their families, and those that are in need during this pandemic. I know $10 million is not enough, but that's a start. And these were immediate expenditures. These are things that we needed now. So $10 million for care packages. $2 million for computer hardware. This time has changed where people may have to work from home, right? If they get the virus, we send them home. They're not just going to stay at home and do nothing, right? If they do contract the virus, then they're going to work from home. And they need equipment. And this would be for all the branches to get some equipment. We kept that. So one addition that was put in here, $3.5 million for bathroom additions. We were waiting until the three branches came together, because 116-20 said the three branches would come together to do an expenditure plan. That's going to still happen, and we're going to do that. But bathroom additions were given here because chapters need some of these bathroom additions complete so that the water line can get there, see? So we thought, let's be proactive. Let's get those bathroom additions done. And then when the money gets approved for the water line extensions, they're ready to connect. And so we approved $3.5 million for bathroom additions. There was $7 million for burnout assistance. And we talked amongst each other, the group that was vetting this legislation, and we were looking at also the CARES Act guidelines, which was incorporated back into this legislation, by the way. And we were looking at it, and we were like, that's going to be a tough sell. Yes, we need homes, but if you look at there's a housing manufacturing component to our expenditure plan. But this one, to build homes for people who have burned out, didn't fit the criteria of the CARES Act guidelines. Because if we use the monies not pursuant to the guidelines, we're going to have to pay it back. Who's going to pay it back? It's going to be the Navajo Nation government. Not the chapters, not the individuals, but the government. And we know we're $30 to $50 million because in a deficit because of the closure of NGS and Peabody. And we can't afford to, possibly pay back any dollars like that if it's not fitting the guidelines of the CARES Act funds. Also, the $3 million for the healthcare facilities, we kept that in there because the 638s, like Winslow, Tuba City, Utah Navajo Health System, Tsehotsoi Medical Center, SAGE, we need to help with their immediate needs, which is maybe more PPEs, more supplies. IHS facilities, they got a good chunk of the CARES Act funds. IHS, Gallup Indian Medical Center, Kayenta, Chinle, Shiprock. So they're given direct appropriation through Department of Health and Human Services and to IHS. So they're okay. This $3 million would be for the immediate needs of the healthcare facility. So we kept that in there. The next one is $2.5 million, $2,559,530.10. That says Navajo Nation financial assistance. That one there is for the procurement of how these dollars are to be spent. We need to track these dollars, and we also said that we would be transparent on how these dollars get spent, just like we're doing now. But we don't have time to be tracking all these dollars, and we need somebody outside to track it for us. Because Office of the Controllers, they're going to be kicking out checks left and right. They don't have time to be doing the work to show the people how it's broken down. That's why we're going to bring someone in to hold the accountability in place for how these dollars get spent. 2.5. In the chapters, as you can see, $55 million. We got to spend these dollars by the end of the year, December 31st, at this stage. We're asking for an extension, yes. And we're hopeful we can get the extension. But right now, the law states it's got to be December 31st is the deadline. So $55 million for chapters. You know, in this day of COVID-19, in this day of no chapter meetings other than just a select group of people approving things. I heard from the Navajo people, you know, Vice President and I, we were out there in the chapters, 110 chapters. And there was a lot of concerns from the Navajo citizens about how government, not all the chapters, don't get me wrong, but how some chapters were running their government without letting the citizens know what's going on. It's all about accountability. If these dollars are spent contrary, or let me say this, if they're spent not according to the guidelines of the CARES Act, we're going to have to pay it back. Like I said earlier, who's going to pay that back? Is it the chapters that may misappropriate, mismanage those dollars? No. It's going to be the Navajo Nation government. There's got to be a different mechanism to get monies to the chapter. And we'll take a look at that, the 3 branch chiefs. How can we get PPEs stored at local chapters or these regional hubs throughout the nation? There's so much uncertainty, right? We should be doing our own stockpiling of personnel protection equipment close to these chapter houses. Building warehouses, right? Just like the strategic national stockpile. So we have to look at that, and it's going to take some time to talk a little bit more about what type of aid and how the mechanism for spending dollars at the local communities will look like. And the 3 branches will talk about that. So that's what was line item vetoed. Line item vetoed means we didn't say no to the whole thing. We said no to certain things in there. And those certain things that we said we should reevaluate is the $7 million for burnout assistance, the $55 million for chapters, and the judicial branch, $10 million. There's a need there at judicial branch. But one thing that we thought that was going to be a hindrance is this $10 million would be sitting in the executive branch at the Department of Health. If the $10 million were to be used, it might take a lot longer than what the judicial branch intended to spend these monies on and for. Wouldn't we think that the monies would go directly to the judicial branch so that they can administer it and spend those dollars? So we're going to reevaluate that. So these are going to be reevaluated with the 3 branches in mind. That's the expenditure plan. These were supposed to be immediate needs. The expenditure plan is what the 3 branches will be talking about. So yes, we line item vetoed. We said no to $72 million of the $93 million total for this legislation. So what we signed into law was $21 million. And $21 million, the food, water, and basic necessity care packages, the $2 million for computer hardware and software, the $3.5 million for bathroom additions, the $3 million for public law 93-638 healthcare facilities, and the $2.5 and change for the Navajo Nation Cares Fund expenditure financial system. So if you see that chart back on the screen there, it says under CJN 4720, $21 million $59,530.10. That's what we approved in this bill. So let's go to the other bill, CJN 4620. That's another legislation, another resolution that was passed. All these were in the original bill, but they were deleted and put into a separate bill. So what we considered here was the special duty pay, $21 million. We see it go up more from our first request, which we thought is okay, because remember the uncertainty from now. We were talking about back pay of special duty from the start of the pandemic to today. Now with this extra money, we can start considering from today to December 31st in special duty pay. So $21 million there for our first responders, and it's going to be a challenge. Let me say that up front. Everybody's going to want special duty pay. Who was actually an essential worker? Who was actually on the front lines during this pandemic? And we need our division directors and our managers to be truthful on that. Many of our Navajo Nation employees were at home, right, getting a paycheck. And they weren't at the front lines. They weren't working. So you would think they would be exempt from the special duty pay, right? That's how I see it too. But there are other people that are essential employees, like the office of the controller, right? They might not be giving out food or out there on the front lines, but they were making our government run because checks had to get issued. Finances had to get done. And they were working during this time. So yes, they should be considered. CHRs, community health representative. I saw so many of them with the vice president out there on the front lines. I mean, way front lines, dealing with COVID positive patients on a daily basis. Our senior citizens center employees giving out food to our people out there. Yeah, they deserve special duty pay. Even our Navajo Nation chapter employees. And I've seen many of them on the front lines. Some we didn't see. And remember, we visited 110 chapters. And so, yeah, they should get special duty pay. Those that were really on the front lines helping our people during this time. So $21 million for special duty pay. Personal protection equipment, $10 million. And I appreciate the council putting more money into special duty pay into the PPEs as well, because we got to start planning for the future. People say the vaccine is not going to be available until what? Early next year, I think, Vice President. Some say even 2 years from now. So I don't know what to believe, because this virus may mutate. So we got to start planning. And I like what Vice President was saying. We should build our own big warehouse here on Navajo to start stockpiling personnel protection equipment for our citizens, instead of relying for items from somewhere else, right? Let's prepare. That's what our grandparents told us to do, right? Get prepared. And then the Dene Hatathi Association, $1 million. We line item vetoed that. You know, there are so many reasons, and I'll give you one where you would think that this $1 million was going to go directly to those traditional practitioners, right? No, not all of it. A lot of this money would have gone to setting up this organization and to staff salaries, $302,000 to staff salaries, and consultants, and also to have a director. And with only a small amount going to direct support for our traditional practitioners or medicine people. Now, it looks like, yeah, 1 million could have helped a lot of our practitioners out there, but if you break down the budget, over 2/3 of this budget is going to salaries, with that remaining less than 1/3 going to the actual people who need help. So is that equitable? You know? And we're putting a group ahead of everyone else. You know? These are, if we're going to do other groups, then other groups are going to start coming. The expenditure plan out here, if you look at it, will help majority or even all of the Navajo citizens in one way or another. And we're not segmenting them into various groups and say, this is your money, this group, group A, group B. No. This money is intended for all of the Navajo people. And we want it to benefit the majority of the Navajo Nation. And so that's why we line item vetoed that $1 million. I know there's a lot of concern. And I did say, you know, that we shouldn't be saying things negatively about one another's faith. You know, during this debate, there was mention of Native American Church. What about the Medicine Men's Association? What about our pastors, our faith-based leaders? They went through a lot. We've lost a lot of our pastors out there. One, Mr. Noble, right? Being on the front lines. A lot of these pastors were on the front lines giving out food and supplies. And so we need to be cognizant of that we shouldn't segment different groups into their own, you know, appropriation. And so that is what was line item vetoed. So the amount that was approved was $31 million for the CJN 4620. And then 21 million in change. So you add those two together is $59,530.10. Now, if you go to the last, where it says running balance of Navajo Nation Cares Fund, where it says first allocation, that's the first allocation that we got. Everybody knows $600 million, $559,530.10. That's what the first allocation. Then the second allocation, we got $86 million and change. And the third, $27 million and change. So all that added together for the CARES Act that came to the Navajo Nation, $714 million, $189,631.47. So we subtract that from the $52 million that were approved from CJN 4720, CJN 4620, $52 million. The remaining amount right now for the CARES Act fund balance is $662 million, $130,101.37. That now is going to be placed into an expenditure plan. So the three branches, remember we proposed that we get a 12-member of experts to take politics out of it, to make sure that these projects are project ready and construction ready. We wanted to put 12 members there to recommend an expenditure plan to us. But council took that out and they said, we'll do it. And so they tasked the three branches, the Chief Justice, the Speaker, and the President, to come up with the expenditure plan. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to let you know that at least on the executive branch side, we will be putting our group of experts still back together through an executive decision, because we want these projects to be vetted and to make sure that we can complete it by December 31st. There are some projects ready to go. Chapters that are listening out there, you have sent the office of the president and vice president your projects. Some of them were already sent up here and ready just for funding to get the construction done. Our team is looking through the whole list. At this stage, ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, it's going to be very difficult to have new projects in these lists. But many of the chapters out there have forwarded their projects and they're just waiting to be funded. And here's the opportunity to do that with these CARES Act funds. And what are the projects? If you can, this is going to be our last slide. This, Vice President and I believe, is the high priorities of the Navajo people through what they told us during the campaign, what they told us when we were debating the CHISN fund projects, and many of the resolutions and letters that have come up. You know, of course we want to be able to do a lot of projects, but what projects can we get the biggest bang for the buck? The need for water is at the top. Expenditure of $300 million for water infrastructure and agricultural projects. Adequate plumbing of Navajo homes are necessary to provide clean water for hygiene and household use to combat COVID-19. You know, we need running water. Matter of fact, the Navajo-Utah Water Rights Settlement Act is awaiting the House leadership, and maybe Congressman O'Halloran can talk about that, the Navajo-Utah Water Rights Settlement. We just need the House to approve that, because the Senate already approved it, to get water to those Utah Navajos. And this could help a lot as well for Arizona and New Mexico. Agricultural projects, you know that. Right now we're in a drought. We're in a drought right now. You know, I was told today by the incident commander, Mark, that if an ember were to fly into another area up there in the Wood Springs 2 fire, that there's an 80 to 85% chance that it could start another fire. That's how dry it is out there. So there is a drought happening, and many of you are hauling water. We should be putting up places where people can haul water throughout the Navajo Nation. Chapters are closed, right? And it's up to us to take care of these if it does come to fruition. No vandalism, no breaking of the pumps, things like that, so that we can get water to our animals and also to our farms. We want to be able to help with agriculture here. Farming, livestock. That would be a big chunk of the remaining $662 million. The other would be $150 million for power line and solar infrastructure. Source of power, energy of Navajo homes are needed to electrify water infrastructure. You need refrigeration. You need electricity to the water pumps, you know, so we can combat COVID-19. And that's all. You cell phones are needing electricity, things like that. $50 million for broadband and telecommunication. We're working with Director Chris Vicente Also, Director Pearl Yellowman, our Chief of Staff, Paulson Chaco, and many others to develop a more comprehensive broadband telecommunication plan. Because we're all these different networks, right? We have so many different networks. It has to be a comprehensive plan. You got cell service companies, all different types. Internet companies too. And to push some of these broadband or even fiber into communities like Tuba City. You know, Chris has been working on getting with the help of the Tuba City chapter, the chapter officials there, and also Mr. Six Killer there, to get fiber into Tuba City to help not just the chapter or the community, but also the healthcare facility there. And we'd like to put some monies for that project into the plan. $50 million for scholarship. Remember, we did a $50 million proposal to the council. They tabled it, and they just didn't approve it. The Navajo people, the students out there wanted more dollars for education. Here's an opportunity to fund more doctors, more healthcare professionals, more public safety personnel. We need more of those. We found that out because of the COVID. Everybody's saying lock down the nation. We don't have that many police officers. We also looked at our healthcare facilities. Not enough nurses, Navajo doctors. Let's help for the future of any pandemic by bringing back some of our Navajo professionals. $60 million for Navajo businesses and promote economic development. We just established, and I'll be signing off today. I was hoping I could get it before me now, but there's going to be an establishment of a Navajo Nation economic recovery work group that will be chaired by the Vice President on how to reopen safely businesses here on the Navajo Nation, and to also look at the long-term recovery of our economy. It might seem like it didn't affect us that much because we don't have that many businesses. But what we want to do is have more businesses, so if another pandemic happens, we spend our money here and we're safe here on our nation, rather than going off our nation. And that would be $60 million. And Vice President said amen to that. I know he can do it. $60 million for Navajo business and promote economic development. Vice President's going to talk about the PPP, which was extended. I'll have him talk about that as well today. Expenditure, $20 million. Here's the housing. We would like to do housing manufacturing facilities throughout the Navajo Nation. At least to start off with 2, one in Arizona and one in New Mexico. The Arizona one, I think the land is already available in Tuba City. Build a large housing manufacturing facility where we can prefabricate modern day octagons, the walls and all, the roof. And then we take them out. We put the foundation down. We put it together like a puzzle. We have the local families or volunteers help. That's the sweat equity component. To help our elders, to help our people who need homes, veterans, and many others. First, the families, the young families, because multiple generations of family members live under one roof. This is one way to have a modern day octagon. It could be a studio octagon. And I think many people would be happy, content with having an octagon. How many of you would be okay with having a modern day octagon? Some of us grew out of traditional hogans, right? With the sand, the mud. Rather than having an elaborate, $500,000 home, 5 bedrooms, garage, This would help start young families in building their homes and also help grandma have her own home. Our elders have their own home. And in New Mexico, we're open to seeing what lands are available in New Mexico. It's always land, right? It's always land when it comes down to any type of development. Lands. But if there's a chapter out there that's got some acreages for a housing manufacturing facility, then it should be a doable project. And then the rest of those dollars after that, we will determine on other needs based on the three branches and the Navajo people. You know, economic and community relief efforts. Solid waste is another. Key Allen Begay brought up, and I totally agree with that. And I think many of you agree that we have a solid waste problem, and we need to address that. And how does that deal with COVID-19? You know, a lot of the trash that we have to collect, some of the people don't want to take it because of the fear for COVID-19. And we have to get a professional to come in to haul that trash away, especially from the healthcare facilities. So, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to bring that up. I know some of you, this is a repeat, but I know not everybody watches this. That's when everybody has questions, right? And then some of you probably are saying right now, we already heard that. You know, we have to get this information out to the Navajo people. That's transparency. That's why we do these town hall meetings, ladies and gentlemen. And there's so many other items that we want to talk about, but I'll save that for Thursday. Thursday, we're going to talk about the budget, and we're hopeful that the three branch chiefs will be signing a memo to kick off the fiscal year 2021 comprehensive budget talks. And let's get a budget in place for this year because of, you know, there's so much uncertainty in the future. Let's not kick the can down the road into December where we may have a height of, you know, influenza, even COVID-19. Our focus might be on that. But we always ask for your prayers, Navajo people. Kodoshi nakhatsada zindolel. Kodola bahoshne beson hije kolia Washington. Så sted nezne din de mil so dobela enelt au beso ni hije kolia. Kodo e bindel national sospekadil ni te hot au ni hikeni hidna. Beso chdo instan nenigi hot au e ya nal sospeka ilia shnabel. Kodoshi atseledaidan linigi trago. Just shdo shna koje executive branch has aja. Ado beshpa has an aja laja. Das dahaki. Speaker Damon. Wolde has aja do koje court shia judicial branch. E shama aja. Chief Justice Joanne Jane. Asian British Lahit le dollar. Di hot out a beso chdo in. Hat no shin kat dot atli beshpahats an bich quil net dollar. A kon he kodo adado ninigina so say I da beka ilia sha ha ida ni dollar atla. Tran zatin de milso. Enelt a kontro nas koda dolnil. Je konsa trodaten. Bekashi. Patron da hike. Ni dag at hallo. E trubich koda dil nil di no what a ebni na tran isn't the mil sonelt or beso e bust and don't nel di no. Trohatne. Ado dido best chi. It's ado electricity. Power lines that egi kon does egia. Edo Tlan hik eni hinna buganje. Biche koda dolni. E hot AD electricity beda halon dolel. Shandin do ade di zintlish besli chi. Zadol enigi eda landa do netle. Hik eni hinna. Zago keda hat enigi konde nebiki of a car. Tlashe e yadi besli chi. Power lines that egido yidigo dantita. Ebinina e shandin bitsado electricity inigi e la banda do solar de solar panels ado alla I'm sorry e she alla nezadin do ba ashladin de mil sohnelt e power lines bando nel beso bando nel ado di ashladin demil so ya di kada di jahagi ya telephone da hagi cell phone da hagi internet computers da hagi trinlo da ben da annestole ebinina in lego nakhalchin chudayol indole chukadet do da altkataya the broadband that egi telecommunication egi beda hallo asho da altkatole nalsos the teacher je kondel indole ashla din de milso anelt beso di kujin khalchin beso bandonel yinache da altkatole yinache di kuje it's isba hayaje Arjun dal nestole. Judik ad nalnegi ya de kosensragen hast ata. Ni helperhausen. Denne ni an ich in alchen do la aden dal nesta. Edo besel bando neli zel in dan lidolel. Tsalado dan lidolel. Edo besel bahalodolel. Tsalado lan he da haloda in helper hazen. Besa ba steni nelo tsalao dan lido le ot ay na chita altkhato le lada kont hit tsalada halodo le hastrad din de mil tsanelt ad kon na liha ba ran la da dol ni to la da dol ni da no hot ba yeltke juk adait shi al chiniye na liha ba ran daznal Ebinina, ishibinina, late odd, da ilni. Sam's Club, Walmart, da hegi. Kon, ni hid na quad, naliaba, and bandas nella, kon, chudayos, idolel, aro aqua, beso yanan, tetole. Ot eba, banside case, ot eshikedoshina. Na kid na din, the meal sonelt, edicon. Dikin skagil ando nel kin adal idolel ni massa ni cheni na la hagan be da tenegi nakhalchen ani da khegi do ni tsla soda hagan banda do nel ado appe edan lingi do appe do athagan del idolel ahat ya hetan zendolel do ya khatan zendolel ado dijuk at Ani peso pelazlin ashla de mil so ashladin ye ashladin nakhe de mil so doba ashladin nast de mil yaj doba ashla Nezna din doba tradin. Enelt eya kodo naltsos. Nihije beka ilia beso chodo il. Di nal nihigi bikije. Ndel neshigiji di mask da egin da dil na da di no hot eya beso belada sidlin. Altsko. Beso nihije koliagi. Eya Sostzed nezna din tsata da mil so alla nezna din tsebet din doba nahast da mil yaj doba hastha nezna din do tradin alla enelt peso enihich kolia Washington da So dibe la zlengi subtract iliago qad ahandi peso shin kodo bande ido legi ya hastha nezna din doba hastha din doba anaki de mil so alla nezna din do tradin de mil yaj do alla nezna din doba alla Eshin peso itzito le kodoni hije kolia. Eshin kodo tsilede dani klinigi shi biniya lahande lahitle tole. Kodo ba hoshnegi kodo dahi kajiya executive branch de ninja. juk she kododo shina bikidede tingi executive branch aje yinda nishigi kodoba hoshna hot a beso chdo inti yitzihigi di no hot a shina sose di atsiladen linigi biche kwil neto le naha jeni he kodo adado ninigi benache konal sos hadil yado biche kwil neto le shkero shina. So she only here ni chane iliado le kot ndel nashigi. So here la shikedo shina kodo shaho ato kodo hanen ni kodeliagi. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you. I know that's a lot of information. I did my very best. I hope I didn't confuse, but I hope you understand the rationale in these vetoes to protect these monies on behalf of the Navajo people and to look to the future for us to come together, the three branches, to develop an expenditure plan that can benefit all the Navajo people in one way or another. So thank you so much. God bless you, and God bless our great Navajo Nation. I turn the time over to our Vice President, Myron Lizer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate your leadership and your wisdom in running an administration and the Navajo Nation. So, yeah, we have the great need to remain vigilant and keep ourselves and our families safe in this fight against COVID-19. Masks, distancing, washing of hands, sanitizing fixtures such as doorknobs, handles, and the like. Let's remain vigilant, Shidane. This morning, President and I attended the Incident Commander Update in Fort Defiance, Arizona, where we heard firsthand the latest updates on the fire and that President mentions. You know, something interesting on this fire here, the Wood Springs 2 fire. Over 400 firefighting personnel. Not only are they fighting this Wood Springs 2 fire, but they also have to be cognizant of maintaining their own safety and maintaining proper health protocols while fighting this fire and keeping themselves and others safe. And so not wanting to steal the Southwest Area Incident Management Team 5 Incident Commander's report and steal his thunder, this fire has them learning how to fight a fire and a virus at the same time. I can't imagine what that is like. So all of the country is calling in to check in on the status and find out the measures that they are taking to in implementing and staying safe and while fighting this fire. So our prayers be with them. We did give all those in attendance this morning a shout out and a great thank you from the Navajo Nation. Probably a little over 100 personnel was there, and the rest are up in the hills fighting this fire. So, you know, we're again thankful. We did, President and I, represent you all and giving them thanks. And I know from the bottom of this administration's heart, we appreciate their effort, we appreciate their hard work, and we appreciate all that they are having to put up with. Number one, fighting a fire, and then also this COVID-19 pandemic. So, yeah. Changing gears here, our Economic Recovery Work Group has been finishing up our policy on what it will look like when opening our remaining businesses here on Navajo. Only essential businesses to this point have been allowed to open, and now very soon those non-essential businesses and remaining small businesses that have not been able to open will be allowed to start to open with limitations. Those limitations will be limited hours of operation, limited capacity in serving their customers, perhaps under the auspice of a percentage of capacity within the establishment, lines marked for proper social distancing, cashier stations fitted with plexiglass to provide additional protection. And many of you have seen those already in the establishments that you have frequented in and about. So these will be, again, given to those businesses that haven't opened yet. There will also be a phased-in approach with individual guidelines employer guidelines and specific employer guidance in those measures. So these will giving specific guidance to those businesses at a more detailed level will be what this document will look like. Generated by J.T. Willie and our Navajo Department of Economic Development. But, we've always felt that government shouldn't tell you how to run your business, but they should be given the authority on how and when to open during a health crisis. And so certainly government has been there for that. And so as we begin to get and see the dawn of economic reopening, what does ours look like? And so we appreciate our Health Command and how they have guided us with providing us the data and the updates. And so these are all combined with leadership have given us the window of time in which we now find ourselves. As we've seen all around us, economies and cities and their areas began to open, their retail trade areas, their trade centers have begun to open, but where they have seen spiking occur, whether it was their own employees and or whether it was the customers that have come in. And so the needed measures of face mask and proper social distancing and maintaining all of the health protocols is still very, very important. And so there may be days or weeks because of spiking, potentially, that there may be a need to pull back on service and hours. So limiting operations may be needed in the future. And so these types of precautions will come in the form of color-coded notifications. Much like you see on the highway, right? Arriving into a forest, you'll see the dial, there's yellow and then green and yellow, and then it goes into red. And those are the extreme days when fire danger is very present. And so we'll probably utilize the same color coding, green, yellow, and red. And these will all be communicated in real time on an as needed basis. So that's coming this week. You'll hear probably by Thursday we'll release that. And so we're very thankful for J.T. Willie and his team and how that has come to fruition. President mentioned that President Trump agreed to extend the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, where there was still $1.3 billion left unused. This will aid those businesses that haven't already utilized those funds for whatever reason. Should they use these? Those businesses out there are mom and pop shops. Those businesses that haven't used them, we recommend that you use them. Along with those are the economic injury disaster loans, the EIDLs, and also the displaced worker grants, which I've heard the Indian country has not really taken advantage of. So those are just some items in which you can follow up on, or call our Division of Economic Development for more information. All the while, this administration, along with our cabinet members, have been working diligently, as our president has mentioned. The expenditure plan of the CARES Act funding of $714,189,631.47. Man, I tell you, we've never had this kind of funding in which to spend and help bring up our infrastructure with our fight against the COVID-19 and future pandemics. So we have the great need to collaborate and work with our 24th Navajo Nation Council to do this. And we've had meetings, we've had WebEx calls, and we are collaborating with that. And so the need for your continued prayers for leadership to see the needs of the people and let those be the priorities that we will develop here. And so we also see the need working with our federal family on assisting us with the easing up of the bureaucracy and red tape that has hindered us in the past. So many projects that have died because we couldn't, provide the initial momentum that's needed to take these products from concept to fruition because of the myriad of red tape and hindrances that we've seen. And so we'll continue to find out what those obstacles are and those bottlenecks are, as President mentioned, and be able to advocate for them with our congressional delegation. So last week we met with Secretary Sonny Perdue of the United States Department of Agriculture, along with Delegates Eugenia Charles Newton and Delegate Thomas Walker, to discuss these federal constraints. We discussed farming, we discussed ranching, water, jobs, and our great need to push many projects there in Western Agency. Recently, the Secretary was on record on speaking on examples of environmental reviews being expedited. In June, Agricultural Secretary Sonny Perdue released a memo directing the U.S. Forest Service to expedite environmental reviews to increase the use of public lands for logging, grazing, and recreational use. So that's very encouraging. And this was the first time that a cabinet member from the Trump administration has come out to our Navajo Nation. And we look forward to many others to be able to come, as they've all been invited, and we look to working and collaborating with them and strengthening our relationships. We will continue to work with our congressional delegation and federal family on many more issues and problems that may arise in this, our fight against COVID-19. Again, your prayers are needed. I would be remiss if I didn't share some encouragement this morning. A friend sent this to me a little while ago. Psalm 18:30, out of the New Living Translation. God's way is perfect. All the Lord's promises prove true. He is a shield for all who look to him for protection. And so let's pray for unity. Let's pray for rain. And let's pray for economic revival here on Navajo. Yeah. And so without further ado, a friend of the Navajo people, our congressman, your congressman, Mr. Tom O'Halloran. Congressman, take it away. Oh, yate.
Be here today. Thank you very much. First of all, my condolences to the families of those that have lost a loved one. Our hearts and prayers go out to you, and they will continue to go out to you. And for those that are 2,310 people that are still sick, again, our prayers are with you, and we hope you recover soon. I do have to say that I heard 30% from the president of testing done on Navajo. That is probably the largest amount of testing done in the entire nation. As you can see in Arizona, testing is a huge problem. We have the money for it. We've allocated that money, but getting the testing equipment and the test built or produced and being able to get it out into the field has been difficult with the huge amount of need within our country right now. And this is a virus, as the president explained, is very difficult. But we also know, and I won't go through the amount of preventative issues that the president went through, but the main thing is that the virus is transported by us. That is why the masks are so important. That is why separation is so important, and making sure that you try to stay at home as much as possible. I do the same thing. I see Luther Lee's on the screen here. He's with us today, and he addresses our Navajo issues. And I haven't seen Luther in person for over 3 months. Paul Babbitt, I've seen him twice in 3 months, and he's my deputy chief of staff. But it's hard to be able to see people when you need to be making sure you're not a spreader of this virus. So I want to go through, it's been mentioned about the CARES Act a few times. That was a third of the bills that we've passed in this emergency. It dealt with many issues. I do want to mention that the tribal issue was, we had asked in the House for $20 billion during negotiations with the Senate. That ended up being $8 billion. And that's where the $700 $114 million came from for the tribal nation of the Navajo Nation. Additionally, a lot of the bill dealt with unemployment insurance. There was delays at the state level trying to get those checks out. It appears that they've straightened that out. But on unemployment, you're at the state level at $220 or so a week, plus the federal level at $600 per week up until July 30th. One of the issues within the new act that we're trying to do, the HEROES Act, is try to extend that money until the end of the year, actually until the end of January 2021, because it looks like this whole process is moving in the direction of a continuing of the virus and a potential increase in the late fall and through the winter of next year. So we need to be ready for that, and we're trying to get ready for that entire process moving along. I mentioned the HEROES Act, and that's an important element for us all to understand. It's a follow-up to the CARES Act. In between the two was an emergency supplemental. That emergency supplemental, we made sure that the PPP for our businesses was included for the tribal casinos. And so the employees there were taken care of and the business was taken care of. The HEROES Act will do a lot more than the CARES Act did. And there's the HEROES Act in the House, and so far the Senate has not taken up the HEROES Act, nor have they come forward with a completed process. But we are in negotiations with the Senate on that process. The first thing is, I heard the president mention broadband. I know the vice president is concerned with that also, for not only business, but communication with people and education processes and being able to attract economic development in the HEROES Act for those purposes. And of that, $9.2 billion are for tribal lands. The rest of it is for mostly rural areas in America, and some within the areas of need within our metropolitan areas, both for subsidies for people that have it nearby but can't afford it. And the same supplement is going to be used for the tribal members also. So that somebody, just because of the amount of money they make, will still be able to have some level of broadband. The relief fund for coronavirus is going to be, we're asking for $20 billion in funding to assist tribal governments with the fiscal impacts. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, we're asking for $900 million to meet tribal government needs as necessary. That includes cleaning tribal facilities, government operations. I do want to point out that I had a bill, and we'll get to the Transportation Act, but goes directly to that issue. First of all, we'll be doing a critique on how they have addressed the coronavirus. But they will be getting, in the HEROES Act, $2.1 billion to address the healthcare needs related to coronavirus. That is over and above their current budget. The Centers for Disease Control will get $2.1 billion for tribal issues. And again, there'll be $3 billion for mental health across the country, and with tribal organizations, we'll get a portion of that. Education, which is near and dear to all of our hearts, our children. There's going to be $115 billion in the HEROES Act for state education stabilization funds. And of that, $501 million will be going to tribal education. The other issues as it relates to what we're doing is there is the $20 billion comes out of $100 billion. This is for tribes, just like the 714 million that the tribe got. We want to again get the $20 billion, and that's in negotiations. But the total is $100 billion, and that's for states and cities and towns and counties and tribes across the entire nation. And of that, a lot of that is going to be used for tribal lands. I have, between the CARES Act and the changes we made under the emergency supplemental and this program here, the HEROES Act, we'll have spent, once the HEROES Act is approved, over $4 trillion in this pandemic. And we know that there sadly may be even more needed. The SMART Fund is one of the things we've been working on with the Senate, and it's part of that $100 billion, but they want to do $500 billion. We want to do $1 trillion for that fund for cities, towns, counties, and tribal nations and tribes across the country. That's in debate right now. We're negotiating. We're trying to get that through. I worked with the sponsors of that bill in the Senate to try to get it going in the first place. So we're hopeful that we can find some common ground between the $500 billion and the $1 trillion to make this a reality for the tribal nations across the land. There's a I'm going to switch over now to the transportation bill. That bill is currently in the House, or it just got out of the House, and it's over in the Senate now. And it is also has a lot of tribal issues associated with it. And I'm telling you, here we go. Let me just be a second here. So that bill has the $9.2 billion for tribal transportation issues and other infrastructure needs. And in order to address that, we did a number of, I'm going to do the highlights of what goes to tribal nations. Obviously, the $100 billion is part of the infrastructure package, and the tribal nations are going to get $9.2 billion of that for broadband. And a part of that also goes towards purchasing equipment so the citizens can have the broadband available. And as I said earlier, the subsidies. We also have money provided for the planning, design, construction, and modernization improvements and renovation of water, sewer, and solid waste. That is part of a bill that I sponsored. That bill identifies that the Indian Health Services had done a study and said that they were in need of $2.67 billion in order to address the sanitation, water, and other issues within tribal nations across the country. That bill was included into the infrastructure bill. And so once we get the infrastructure bill passed, we will be able to identify clearly how much money will come to Arizona. We believe that somewhere around a third of that money will be coming to Arizona, a third of the $2.67 billion. And so that would mean that the largest tribe in Arizona would get a considerable amount of money for the infrastructure needs of the Navajo Nation. The other legislation that will be passed tomorrow, and the president, not passed, will be introduced tomorrow or Thursday, is a bill that identifies the the needs of making sure we extend the deadline past July 31st. I'm sorry, July 31st, we've passed it for PPP already, but we want to extend the date for using the money of the $174 million or $714 million, extending that into next year so that the tribe would have enough time. Actually, it's next 2022. So the tribe would have enough time to do that and spend that money appropriately. And ideally, we would be able to get the HEROES Act passed, and more money would be able to come to address the many needs of the Navajo Nation and the Navajo people. We also are having a bill that we dropped that identifies how we're going to renew computers and get those computers into the hands of people that can't afford computers. So people will donate computers, companies will donate computers, they will be refurbished and then given to people in need across our nation, which includes tribal lands. The infrastructure bill is also going to be including water settlement money. The president had mentioned water settlements and the problems associated with that, the length of time it's been taking, the cost of water settlements. So it provides $120 million per year to pay for Indian water rights settlements. So we want to speed up that entire process because we've listened to the Navajo people and the tribes across the nation about the complexity of these and the cost associated with them and the need for water on the Navajo Nation. The treatment of Indian tribes and states with respect to bond insurance, so that right now the tribal governments across our nation cannot borrow money the same as states do. This would give the tribes status, the same status that a state would have. So they would be able to get better interest rates and in terms on any of the loans. Health services, outpatient health care in hospitals. There's going to be for Indian health care $5 billion in funding for fiscal years 2021 to 2025. And that money is within the Indian Health Services process. And we are also looking at what improvements are needed in Indian Health Services in general to get better health care for tribal members. And that will come out of that $5 billion. Tribal transportation program, there's 3 programs for tribes under this infrastructure package. One of them is the tribal transportation program increases funding levels for tribal, the specific tribal programs by $800 million per year, $800 million per year. And part of that is bridge construction, but also road construction. There's another $50 million annually out of the Highway Trust Fund for a grant program that would provide for the highest priority projects that tribes need across the country. And that would extend for the 5 years. And then there's federal lands and tribal major projects, and that's another $400 million out of the trust funds for an extended 5 year. But it also includes that we would lower, the vice president mentioned regulations and other issues that that actually slow up the process. And so right now we're going to lower the threshold from where it's at today to $12.5 million for federal lands projects and $5 million for tribal projects. But the tribal projects, it requires the funds to be split 50-50 between tribal and federal lands projects. That will change also. Native American housing. Housing was addressed in the CARES Act. Housing is addressed in the HEROES Act. Housing is addressed in the Infrastructure Act. And we understand clearly, whether it's our veterans, our elders, our children, our families, that housing is a critical issue across the Navajo Nation and across Indian country in general. And so there'll be a process that is created for more money for grants. Will also be given $1 billion under the transportation bill that went out of the House and is in the Senate now. Housing block grants will be part of that, and at least 10 must be used for green housing investments. Minority funding for women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses is within the package. Major projects on federal lands and tribal major projects are in there. And let's see, and it reauthorizes the abandoned mine land program for coal mines and other issues that has in there $3 to $5 million annually to make sure that these mining and other programs are safe on our lands. I think that that is, so we have the first two bills that were passed early on. Mostly those two bills were smaller bills that's paid for the initial equipment needed. The biggest issue there was that most of that equipment was made in other countries. They needed it also. So there's a backlog. That's why the equipment in our hospitals and so forth was not there. If we had the money to do it, we couldn't purchase it on the open market. Or some countries like China withheld it and used it for their purposes, or charged much. We were willing to pay because we needed to protect the American citizens and the people of the Navajo Nation. The other piece of this is to highlight the continuing need for the testing and tracing element. And so there's been money in there to do that. Obviously, the testing is being geared up, and there's a production issue there. But the tracing has to be done at a much higher level. And we're seeing that in Arizona now. We're identifying clearly that in Arizona, the amount of tracing and testing is much lower than the 30% testing that the Navajo has, and also way too low to be able to have an aggressive program moving forward to get in front of this virus as much as possible. The president mentioned that we had some issues coming up as far as making sure that the tribes got their money faster. Right now, it took 3 months for the tribes to get all this or the Navajo Nation to get this $714 million. It should have been 30 days. So we have changed that so that it's moved up to a level that can get out faster directly to the tribes. And that's going to be an important element moving forward. In general, after the CARES Act came the emergency supplement, then came now the HEROES Act. We have to get that out of the Senate and to the president to sign. And the other issue is obviously infrastructure. The Congress and the president have been talking for 3.5 years about an infrastructure bill. We all agree that an infrastructure bill is needed. We also agree that the unemployment rate is not going to go down substantially over the next year or two at the earliest. And so we have to be able to get and supplement jobs out there and incentivize jobs out there on a continual basis. And this infrastructure package, which is a total of $1.5 trillion, not only allows our country to improve its infrastructure and invest in highways and other projects, water, sewer, the roads of America and the roads of Navajo Nation. But it allows people to have good paying jobs. And in reality, that's where we need to go. We need to really be able to, those people that have lost jobs or were unemployed even before this, we need to make sure that we're coming out as a stronger country, not a weaker country. We have to understand our competition is trying to get ahead of it, and we all need to get ahead of them. And so these investments, the capital investments, are going to be with us for 20, 40 years. It's imperative that we get this bill out, both for tribal nations across our land and for America in general. And so with that, Mr. President or Vice President, I'll take any questions that you may have.
Which one? This one here? All right. Thank you, Congressman. Vice President here. Thank you for all of that, highlighting all of those bills and all of the efforts that you're doing. And you are a friend of country and certainly of the Navajo Nation. And we look to you for, and thank you for your leadership and, you know, what is coming down the pike. Timely information is very important. So thank you for delineating all that, what you're working on. And you're right, we aren't able to regularly meet like we're normally accustomed to, having, you know, our vital staff, not being able to work with them readily, but somehow it gets done, and through technology and through WebEx and all that, we'll continue to meet and see you on the highways of the internet. So thank you, Congressman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President, and I wish all the speedy recovery of everybody that's sick on Navajo right now with this virus. And again, our prayers go out to the 274 families that have lost a loved one. We'll keep those in our prayers. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Congressman. Yeah. Appreciate that. What a great time it was to hear the updates from our Congressman, Tom O'Halloran. Next up, Mr. Andy Mandel, Incident Commander for the Southwest Area Incident Management Team 5. And so, Mr. Mandel, take it away. I believe Mr. Mandel is on a phone call, waiting to be connected. It's going to be a good update for you all. Some good news with regard to the fight against this fire up at the Wood Springs 2 area. So we're looking forward as he gets connected. Right up after Andy Mandel will be Mr. Arbin Mitchell of the 2020 Census. Mr. Mandel. Okay, Mr. Mandel, Incident Commander for Southwest Area Incident Management Team 5. Take it away. We can hear you.
Great. So first of all, I'd like to say I really appreciate the opportunity for letting me be able to update you today. A fair amount has changed since the last time we were able to report out to you guys. So I believe the last time that we spoke, we were showing the containment on the Wood Springs 2 fire at 5%. Today, as been mentioned, the fire size is 12,861 acres. We're showing 76% contained, with 439 personnel on the fire. So we've been able to make great progress in the previous handful of days. We're having a very good day today, and we anticipate some added containment after today's operational period. An update in terms of the operations on the fire. So there is a line all the way around, a containment line all the way around the perimeter at this time. The 76% containment is what we call good black. we have had folks working the entire area perimeter to continue to add to that containment. There will be in the upcoming days possibly visible smoke, and that is large in part interior parts of the fire that had not consumed up to this point. We feel very good about the work that has been going on around the perimeter of the fire, and that gets stronger each day. Having said that, as been mentioned by both the president and vice president, the conditions out there are very dry. We have went into a hot and dry trend with the weather, so initial attack on new incidents that may arise present a very big challenge. We do have firefighters here that are prepared to help and assist with any and all of that should that arise. Also mentioned is the COVID measures. In addition to the firefighting efforts that we have had, all of the COVID mitigations and measures with having this pandemic as part of wildland firefighting certainly has been challenging. We have taken extreme measures to try to keep our firefighters safe, the community safe, everybody healthy and working to do what we need to do to stop this fire. So that has certainly been a challenge, but a challenge that our team has met and continue to work on as we work through what we call our best management practices to always make that process more efficient and better. I would like to take the opportunity to say that from the team, we certainly appreciate all of the support from the community that we have had. It has been overwhelming. I can't tell you what that means to the firefighters out there on the line. That makes all the difference in the world. All of the outstanding communication and coordination that we've enjoyed with the nation, the Navajo Nation, all of the departments, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, everybody working together to for a common goal of stopping this fire. So we really appreciate that. That really makes a difference. I think the point to bring up and make that there has been a lot of very good work done. There is still work out there to be done. We're certainly up for that task and situationally aware of everything that is going on and with the intent to make sure that we get this fire stopped. And when our time does come to turn it over back to some of the local firefighters, that we have been a very good steward of the land, met all of the objectives that we had for this fire, and worked in close consultation with the local resource advisors to protect and preserve and repair all of the natural and cultural resources and the values at risk that are out on this fire's footprint. With that, I'd just like to again say that we certainly appreciate the support that we have enjoyed since we have been here. We encourage the added, questions, concerns, knowledge, anything, information that you guys need. The phone number here with our public information officer shop and all of the avenues via Facebook and NC are readily available to you. If you can't get to those things, we would recommend to just please call the public affairs phone, 505-862-9488. With that, I'd just like to say I appreciate it. Please reach out if you have anything else. Thanks.
All righty, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Mandel, Andy Mandel, giving us the update from the Wood Springs 2 fire, the incident commander up there. So we appreciate all your hard work, as President and I said earlier at the incident command post update, that we appreciate all of the personnel that have laid hand to this great work of fighting the fire, limiting it to the acreage that has been I guess given up, but it's really important to be able to thank you as a leader of the nation. So again, Mr. Mandel, our heartfelt appreciation for all of your hard work and diligence. Yeah. So we appreciate you. So thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, up. Of the 2020 census. He'll be giving us the updates, and we're seeing that percentage of the population that have filled out their requisite form, updating them, the number of their families and whatnot. As you know, on our Navajo Nation, because it's really, really important, everybody needs to be counted. So, Mr. Arbin Mitchell, appreciate you. Thank you for your updates. Thank you for joining this town hall update. Take it away.
Go ahead, Arbin, you're on.
Good afternoon, everybody. Although on a weekly basis, I do updates on 2020 census. But first of all, if you haven't watched Facebook Live here, the importance of census based on that Washington that needs to so it's very important for Navajo, for Indian country to make sure that they're counted. Operation update leave. June the 11th, we restarted our operation. Today, the deadline to complete update leave, but because of certain challenges that we have, extend probably to the end of the month. Update leave, we're dropping off questionnaire. A questionnaire again later one done the plastic bag we'll be leaving the questionnaire in the plastic bag and leaving it on the door handle. We're not going to have any contact with any individual. Questionnaire again census ID number internet connectivity internet here you can make that telephone call all those information or in the packet. You can mail that hard copy back. Postage stamp. Self-response. August the 11th, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We don't want to go to
do individual visits again at the household. So self-response again, though that leads into my self-response report for Navajo Nation. Yeah, for Navajo Nation, as of the other day, we responded 4.8% of the 76,000 housing unit. So 4.8. Although if you look at Arizona, they responded back at 58.5. New Mexico, 50%. Utah is 66%. Although if you break it out into counties, Arizona, Apache County, 11%. Although Navajo County, Arizona, 26%. Coconino County at 39%. Although New Mexico, McKinley County, 22%. San Juan County, New Mexico, they're at 41.5%. So if you look at these numbers, Navajo were only at 4.8. Don't internet benat don't phone benat respond and that paper. So if you break that down, by internet, that 4.8, we responded by internet 1.5%, and by phone, that mailing it back 3.3%. So the percentage says that we're either calling or response back in, or we're mailing it back in. The internet that is low. The response again. We need to increase our numbers. Conditioning. This is the very first time doing census that we can self-respond. Navajo Nation, we have 38 census tracts. Out of those tracks, they track response rate every day at 3:00. You can go to 2020 census response rate. You can take it down to the. You'll see a map of the United States, not by state. Yeah, you can click on Arizona and get to the counties or to the cities. I don't know yet the tribal areas, because you can get to the tribal areas, and then a map of the reservation of tribe will appear. The Navajo again, you click on it. So Navajo, you'll get all the response rate and all that. So let me cover a few tracks within regions here. On the western side, Tonanist has been doing real good. Tonanist, they're at 13.8%. 13.8. Navajo Nation as a whole, shot 4.8. They're way above the Navajo Nation rate, 13.8%. Although in that area, Cameron, by the way, they're at 7.5%. Although Coal Mine Canyon, they're at 6.5%. Although you go to Lubert Spring, to Lonnie Lake, they're at 3.5%. Although the other areas in the Western Agency, like Shanto, Inscription House, Navajo Mountain, they're only at 2%. The others, they're at 3%. So in the Western area, in and around Tuba City, going south, they're doing pretty well. Let me go to Chinle Agency. Chinle Agency, it's right in the middle of Navajo Nation, although right in the middle of rural Navajo. So the highest percentage in there is Salani Blue Gap, they're at 3.4%. Although the rest, they're at 2% or 1%. So we need a lot of response from the Chinle Agency. Although the internet, either that or we haven't completely dropped off the questionnaire. Let me go to Fort Defiance Agency. One that has been doing real good, and within the last week, they jumped like 7%. Over in Lupton, and they're at 11.1%. Last week they were at 4.9, so they jumped like 7%. That's a lot. That's above the national average. So 11.1%. In the Hawk and Oak Springs at 6.3. Window Rock at 9.3. Sawmill, St. Michael's, Red Lake, Fort Defiance, and Crystal they're at 5.5. So that area from that's the Lupton, Oak Springs, St. Michael's, Window Rock, in this area, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. Let me go to Shipwreck Agency. This agency is almost a Chinle agency. They haven't really responded back well yet, so maybe we haven't dropped off the questionnaire yet. So the only one that is really doing pretty well in the Northern Agency is San Juan, Chapter, Cheap Springs, Two Gray Hills, Newcomb. In that area, they're at 6.4. Kadia and Sadak at 4.5. The rest they're like 1%, 2% only. In the Eastern Agency, the one that is doing real well. Let me go back to the Northern Agency. The Nahanzad and Upper Fruitland, they're at 10.9%. They're good, 10.9. Although in the Eastern Agency, Herfinno Nayizi Counselor, they're at 11.1%. Although Crown Point, Little Water, Lake Valley at 6.3%. Although the other one that are doing well is Rama and Brett Springs at 9.3. Sayato, Rock Springs, Church Rock, Pinedale, and Yampato 8.2. Although Red Rock, Manglito, at 7.7. In the Eastern Agency, most of them are close to 5% and over. They're doing pretty well in the Eastern Agency, especially around Gallup, the Crown Point, all the way up to Herfinno, and then back down to Naizi. So they've been doing pretty well in that area. So if you add all that up, a lot of them were under 2, one of them were just 1. So if you add all of them up, Navajo were only at 4.8%. A lot of Indian country are in that same range, though because of the COVID-19 issue, that's it. And then also the connectivity of internet, and then also the responding back by phone. But then they get on the response rate. And yesterday we started some mobile questionnaire assistant. Though a lot of us, we want more information. We were at Crown Point Shopping Center, the parking lot from 10 to 2 o'clock. Today we're at Shiprock Shopping Center from 10 to 2 o'clock. Ascount, it will be at Tuba City Shopping Center from 10 to 2. Thursday, Delacan, and then also Chinle, both at the shopping center parking lot, 10 to 2. So every day we'll have a census worker out there. They'll have their devices. But if you want to have your questionnaire answered, bring your questionnaire. You'll have your ID, census ID number. If they're putting it into the device, you'll get to the next window. So we'll be out there. On the next week, this Monday we'll be in Crown Point. Tuesday, Shiprock, every Wednesday we'll be in Tuba City. Every Thursday we'll be in Delcon and Chinle. It'll be from 10 to 2 o'clock. All the way to January 30th. We'll be in the parking lot helping people respond to the questionnaire, or if you want to have your census question answered. Fairgrounds can get us also quite get Ede ya hat ede kudo at iso ya ben fiction at the 2020 census na nigi do the na every 10 years it hot up nek I don't know nashil to it and the lago needs in the August and other Michigan today we have like 200 of our Navajo people employed, which is very good. From that, nasa asang saan that nasa aja in niche the recruitment yet and the banek. Ede ya at ede ado chada nan hidesh indole. Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is Dr. Jim with Navajo Department of Health. Yat and non non. I just want to welcome everyone and all the listeners on the call this afternoon. I wanted to also begin sharing just some basic information from the weekend here. And I think that's helpful just as a reminder to begin looking at some of the actions of preventing COVID-19. I think COVID-19 is obviously still here. It is not going away. We're still in a pandemic where we are seeing increases all around us, but slowly going down in the Navajo Nation. And we just want to ensure that we all stay in place at home as much as possible, only for essential services. And over the weekend, we had a really important weekend celebrating Independence Day. I just want to just do a reminder to everyone that if you did attend a 4th of July event or gathering this past weekend, it's important to monitor for any COVID-19 symptoms after you attended a large gathering or event, or any kind of celebration at your home with other individuals other than your household members that you typically have interaction with on a daily basis. So there were some recommendations from the Center of Disease and Prevention Control regarding safe gatherings. Some tips they offered were bringing your own food, not sharing food, also celebrating with your immediate household only as much as possible. So right now, as we're approaching the post 4th of July celebration, it's important to remember any symptoms that can range from mild to severe illness appear between 2 to 4 days after exposure. So just monitor yourself, seek medical care immediately if someone has emergency warning signs of COVID-19, such as trouble breathing, persistent pain or pressure in the chest, new confusion, unexpected inability to wake up or stay awake, flushed lips or fight on face. So those are just some items just to remember, as some normal symptoms you see is just coughing, fever, chills, sore throat, muscle pain, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing, new loss of taste or smell as well. So just keep in mind, as you might have celebrated this past weekend, just trying to avoid gatherings as much as possible. But I know from some of our epidemiology contact tracing, we did hear about a lot of gatherings that have occurred that have influenced spikes in certain communities. So just know that gatherings of any amount is still advisable not to do as much as possible. So this just serves as a reminder. Next is this another risk, COVID-19 risk level of activity. Obviously, staying home at the bottom, you really have a low risk of contracting or getting COVID-19, getting firewood or water outside, feeding livestock, getting takeout from a restaurant. And this all is just limited based on any social distancing factors that you might see. And obviously, when you're performing these tasks, you're not really in large groups. You're doing these independently while you're going to the post office, or either you're camping or getting groceries. And then you kind of increase your risk as you begin to be in areas where there are more people. So this is at malls, you might be more at at the level 5 risk if you're at the mall. Dinner parties at a house, going in the airplane, backyard barbecues. So those are your risk as you go up on the scale here. But as you begin having interaction with other people, like and as far as sports like basketball, rodeos, ceremonies, churches, gyms, those are all beginning to be where the 6-foot distancing might diminish over time, or there might be a higher level, obviously, risk for those kinds of interaction. Traveling off the Navajo Nation is high at this point because I know that our numbers here in the Navajo Nation, we all have contributed to it, and we're working very hard to keep our numbers down where we don't overwhelm our healthcare system. Such as playing bingo is also obviously not advisable at all. Holding bingo games or halls or in the communities, we still hear about these every now and then, so just know that those increase your risk of COVID-19. There hasn't been any fairs or large concerts because those have been canceled. But this is just a good example, a reminder of your level of COVID-19 risk as you go about your day every single day. Some continued just reminders is the mental health hotline that we have for COVID-19. So if you know someone or yourself that's dealing with stress regarding COVID-19 and you need to talk to someone, we do have 2 phone numbers that are from 8 to 5, and you can also reach other offices after 5 p.m. During the weekdays and weekends as well. So those numbers are for the Navajo Regional Behavioral Health Center, which is 505-368-1438, also 505-368-1467. So it's just very important that we all find ways to talk about our stress and also maybe just talk to someone different other than your family member if you feel like you want to talk with other individuals. We do have a live KTNN forum. We did these a while back ago when COVID-19, before COVID-19 really took a high impact or increase on the Navajo Nation. And around March, we did have these live 2-hour forums. So we'll continue doing those the rest of July. So our first one will be on July 9th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So just share this with your community members and your family and your relatives. It's just a good way to get other information. I know that as we do these town hall meetings, we do see comments at times that you guys should share this information on KPNN for our elders. And so this is a good opportunity to share with your family members, as I mentioned, and other individuals. That way you can have them hear the information in Navajo and English as well. So I just want to thank everyone for joining the call, and stay safe and also prepare for the continued lockdowns for the next 2 weekends. So it's Tuesday now, so don't be in a rush Thursday and Friday to get your necessities or essential needs for the weekend, the very last minute. I also know there are still people traveling possibly during the lockdown, so it's advisable from the public health standpoint that the lockdowns really are the best means possible to try to prevent any kind of spread through staying at home. So that's the important message here, is to stay home so you don't have the potential to spread or get infected by COVID-19. So just know that the lockdowns are for those reasons, and by going out into the community and going shopping and whatnot, traveling, going to family gatherings, those increase your risk most definitely. And also not knowing in your own household who is infected or not, and not your own household, your extended family, but you normally don't live within your household, the chances of not knowing who's infected or not are really unknown at that point. So we usually advise everyone to gather with individuals in your household, and as well as just people that you know you have daily contact with is quite normal. For those that go to work, you do have normal contact with certain individuals. So I just want to remind everyone to stay safe, stay at home, and prepare for the next lockdown this coming weekend as we're approaching that. And also, I hope that you have time to listen to us on KTNN on Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I just want to say, kehe, and have a good day.